If you walk into a prison with a charge involving a child, you have a target on your back before you ever touch your assigned bunk. Yes, you may not even get the chance to introduce yourself. Your case will do it for you. That label alone drops you to the bottom of the prison order, controlling where you live, who you talk to, and how you survive each day. How it works out. When someone is first sent to prison, the process always begins with a screening. The screening happens during intake and is designed to gather key information quickly. Staff will ask about the person's offense, how long the sentence is, the person's age, their health, both physical and mental, any known medical needs, and any prior history of threats or victimization. They will also ask whether the person fears for their own safety inside prison. These questions help the prison assess what housing and supervision level the person needs. When the screening shows the inmate may be vulnerable, for example due to the nature of the offense, especially crimes involving minors, the case is flagged. The prison classification team then reviews the flag and other factors and determines whether the individual should go to general population, the main housing units, protective custody, PC, or a vulnerable prisoner unit, VPU. You won't stay anonymous. In many yards, the first thing people ask to see is your paperwork. That means your charging documents or presentence report. If you refuse, they assume the worst. If you hand over papers and the offense is there, word spreads. Even if you keep quiet, your name can be checked through public case lookups or old news. Officers know too. They're not supposed to broadcast your case, but information moves. Hiding your offense for years is rare. Coming back to the general population, it is the mainline yard. Here, the housing is more standard. The inmate has regular access to the day room, can attend group classes, can apply for a job inside the prison, and interacts with more people. In this setting, movement is less restricted. Protective custody PC, or a vulnerable prisoner unit, is the opposite. In this setting, the inmate often has stricter rules. Their cell door may open less frequently. Yard time happens in smaller groups or separate times. Jobs inside the prison may not be available or are limited. Classes and programs may also be fewer. Because grouping is smaller and movement is more controlled. Because the risk is higher, their route to meals, showers, or exercise is also more locked down. Some jurisdictions describe it as near solitary or near continuous lock-in time. When inmates are placed in PC, they may end up spending 22 to 23 hours a day in their cell, with 1 hour for yard or shower. You can ask for a PC. The prison can also assign it if the risk is obvious. Many with child-related cases accept it early. They trade freedom for safety. Others try the mainline for the jobs and social access and then check in to PC, though the second things go sideways. How people survive on the mainline. Some do it. They keep their head down, do their assigned job, and stick to a strict routine. They do not talk about their case, they do not argue, and they do not try to prove themselves to other inmates. They avoid crowded places where conflicts start, like the phones, the card tables, the TV room, and the walkways between blocks. They also avoid gangs and people who look for chances to test newcomers. Even following these rules does not guarantee safety. Pressure usually starts small. Someone hints they know your case, then asks for a favor, commissary items, a phone slot, or a small cash transfer via an outside contact. If you give in, the demand often grows. If you refuse, people repeat the rumor and use it to isolate you. In some yards, the pressure becomes social punishment instead of physical attack. No seat, no phone time, no place in line. The aim is the same, to make you pay or make you request protective custody. Both outcomes reduce your options and increase your stress. There's another move inmates make when the yard gets hot: administrative segregation, or AD-seg. It's not the same as PC. It's isolation while a review team figures out what to do with you. It can last days, weeks, or longer. The routine is harsh. Long cell time, very limited yard, no group programs. Some people choose it because the threat is immediate and obvious. Others land there while they wait for a PC bed to open or a transfer to clear. It's boring, heavy, and lonely, yet still better than getting jumped on a tier with blind spots. Not all prisons are the same, though. Some systems cluster sex offenders at a small number of facilities or on dedicated ranges. The housing may still be called the general population, but the mix is different. Most people on the tier have similar charges, similar supervision needs, and similar program requirements. That changes incentives. There is less status in attacking someone for a label everyone shares. There is more pressure to keep the unit calm, so programs and visits run on time. Fights still happen, but random ambushes drop because the usual earn points by hitting a target logic is weaker. What staff and rules are supposed to do? On paper, prisons must screen for risk, separate likely victims from likely aggressors, and stop sexual abuse and targeted assaults. Staff are supposed to keep movement separate, lock doors, run small groups in the yard, and act on credible threats. The system is not supposed to look the other way. In practice, old buildings, broken cameras, short staffing, and human error create gaps. That's how bad incidents happen. Richard Huckle was a British national convicted in 2016 for a long list of child sexual offenses. A judge gave him multiple life sentences with a minimum term set so he would spend decades in custody. Because of the nature of his crimes, he was held in a Vulnerable Prisoner Unit, VPU, at HMP Full Sutton, a high-security prison in England. VPUS runs separate regimes to reduce risk, different unlock times, controlled movements, and limited contact with the main population. Still in October 2019, Huckle was attacked in his cell during an association period on the VPU. Another inmate gained access when the doors on the wing were unlocked. The assault involved a ligature and improvised weapons. Staff responded and called medical help, but Huckle was pronounced dead. The attacker was detained on the wing, later charged, and brought to trial. At trial, prosecutors said the motive was anger at Huckle's crimes and a belief that targeting him would be justified inside. Do they all get killed? It's a common claim, but it's not true. Most people convicted of offenses against children do not get killed in prison. Many finish their sentences. They do it by living in protective custody for long periods, by serving time at prisons that cluster sex offenders, or by keeping a very low profile. Look at the scale first. In the US, there are well over 100,000 people serving time in state prisons for sex offenses involving minors. If "they all get killed" were real, prison homicide numbers would reflect that. They do not. Annual federal data show that deaths in prison are dominated by illness and other medical causes. Homicides are a small share of total deaths. Even in years when homicides spike, the number is a fraction of the total population in custody. Most prisoners, including people with sex offense convictions, die of natural causes or leave alive. How rumors become violence. Imagine a new guy enters. He sits quietly, says little, and avoids showing his files. He might even take a job to avoid trouble. On the surface, that seems smart. But inside, the silence can work against him because the culture around him is asking questions. People are asking, what is he in for? Why won't he show papers? If he doesn't answer, others fill in the blanks. A couple of guesses spiral. I heard he's a Chester, or I saw his name on the offender board. Staff sometimes help spread the drama, even unintentionally. For example, an officer might call the unit and say, check the new guy's file, or remove him for extra monitoring and not give a clear explanation. Other inmates see that move and interpret it as proof of guilt or secrecy. The prisoner who was trying to stay low might suddenly be the most talked about newcomer. When the rumor becomes plausible enough, a shot caller might decide the person is taxable, meaning they owe something for protection, or greenlit, meaning open to assault. The target is verbally isolated first. We don't eat with him. He's a Chester. He's gonna pay. A real case, Andrew Malkinson. In 2004, he was found guilty of a rape in Greater Manchester that took place in 2003. He received a life sentence with a minimum term of about 6.5 years, but because he insisted on his innocence, he stayed in prison for 17 years. During his time in prison, Malkinson reported being treated like a sex offender. He said staff and other inmates treated him as though he really had committed the crime, even though he maintained he did not. For example, he said he was spat on, called a nonce, a rapist, despite the fact that he was innocent. Even after his conviction was quashed in 2023 by the Court of Appeal, which accepted new DNA evidence implicating another man, he found that the treatment and system failures had left deep damage in his life. Life after prison. So, yes, finishing time isn't the end in itself. In many legal systems, especially for sexual offense convictions, strict supervision begins the moment they are released. One key measure is registration. In the UK, individuals convicted of certain sexual offenses must register with the police, providing address details and updates. Research shows that people with sexual offense convictions are often effectively stranded in resettlement terms after prison. Supervision also includes other serious restrictions. For example, license conditions often include GPS monitoring, curfews, you must be home or at a specified place at certain times, no contact orders, you cannot approach certain people or places such as schools or parks, internet use limits, you may not access social media or certain websites, and mandatory therapy or counseling to manage behavior. If this video helped you understand what really happens behind bars, hit like so more people can find it. Make sure to also subscribe to the channel for more straight-to-the-point breakdowns of how the system actually works.